What is it that men notice first about the person they're exploring and creating a relationship with? When a guy's going on a date, there are things that really pull him in, things that really drive him to say, ooh, I want to explore this relationship deeper. And so today we're talking about 5 deeper things that men notice first about a woman that cause him to want to explore this relationship deeper. The first one, and I know what you're going to say, if I give you this first one, you're like, Matt, that doesn't qualify, but hold with me here because I'm going to take you someplace with this. The first one is looks. You're like, Matt, that's not deeper. But here's the deal. Men are visual creatures. I heard an expert once, Dr. Pat Allen, say, men's largest sexual organ is not what you think. It's their eyeballs. Their largest sexual organ are the eyeballs because men are visual. And so here's why this matters, is because so often I'll be coaching a woman, she'll go on a date and she's like, I didn't know if he was attracted to me or not. What I'll tell them is he on the date with you? Then he's attracted to you because unless it's a blind date where somebody else sets you up, he's seen you before, right? He's seen your online profile. He's seen you on the voice or the video calls. He's seen you on the Zoom calls. Like he knows what you look like. And so he's on that date and he's already attracted to you. So you've passed that mark. And what I love about this awareness and understanding is that you can't relax from the standpoint of, is he attracted to me? Now it's about, ooh, do we connect? Are there compatibilities? Like, are there alignments in our values and our lifestyle and the things that really matter? Because you already know if he's attracted to you. You might be trying to figure out if you're attracted to him, but for sure he's already attracted to you. So that's number one, that the deeper place to take this is, allow that to fuel your ability to relax on the date. You know he's on that date because he's attracted to you in the first place. The second thing that he notices, and this is where we begin to get deeper, is he's noticing your authenticity. In other words, it's your alignment. And here's where alignment shines through. It's like, what is authenticity? Authenticity is, are you speaking and acting in ways that are representative of your true self? Are you speaking and acting in ways that are representative of what you really believe and your deeper values? Because that alignment has a feeling to it. That alignment, whether he agrees with one of your beliefs or one of your statements, is irrelevant. The alignment in somebody has power. Like, you can feel when you're around somebody who they're aligned, they're speaking their own truth, they're speaking in ways that reflect what they really believe. And you are attracted to that person because we're all attracted to authenticity. We're all attracted to the willingness to show who we really are. And you'll also notice the energy that you feel when someone is measured in what they're saying, right? They're trying to find out, they're kind of dancing on eggshells. They're like, is this the right thing to say? Or they're holding back in certain areas. And you may not be able to identify it with your conscious mind, but you can just feel it. And there's something in us that's repelled by that because none of us want to be pinned in. None of us want to be hemmed by the opinions and approval of others. We all want the freedom of expression. When you can just be who you are on your date, then he's going to feel that, be drawn to that. Well, how do you develop that? Well, number one is you start being that way in every interaction. You start being that way more in life in general. There's lots of practices for this, but one beautiful practice is to begin to notice what it is that you say. And it's in what groups do you water down or change what it is that you say, because you are looking for acceptance, which is a very human thing to do. We don't judge ourselves in those moments. Just notice, ooh, am I watering down or changing anything that I'm saying because of this particular group? Or am I just being true and authentic to myself? So the practice of tuning in and saying, how do I really feel? And then the way of expressing that, still with love, care, and respect for whatever group you're in, but being able to express your authenticity is a great practice. And this leads to the third thing, that he feels sad. It draws him into this relationship, which is your acceptance of him, which actually becomes way easier to accept somebody else when we fully accept ourselves. So when we accept ourselves enough to live from our authentic truth, our authentic set point, right, then we begin to accept others more freely. And this doesn't mean that you're going to accept someone as your partner or accept or choose them to be your partner if they're not aligned, but you're going to simply accept them for who they are and either release them to go find the right partner or say, ooh, you feel like a really good aligned partner for me. And so men feel that. It's something that is a deep sense of, we experience it as peace. Like, wow, I can just relax in her presence. And that relaxation in her presence feels so good because we don't have to tap dance. We don't have to. I remember a guy coming to me for advice one time and he was saying, Matt, how do I win this woman over? And I said, well, what's the challenge? And he goes, well, she's used to dating billionaires and getting flown on private jets and like taken to private islands and so on and so forth. And I don't have that kind of money. I'm pretty well off, but I don't have that kind of money. And so I'm worried, like I'm not going to measure up. And ultimately, I help this guy see, do you want to be with a woman who's attached to a certain level of status that you inherently aren't even able to provide right now? You're always going to feel like you're stretching and not enough to try to meet her expectation. What men want most is to be able to meet the expectation that you have for the partner in your life. And when he feels your self-acceptance and your acceptance of him, he relaxes and feels like, wow, I feel like I could be this person for her. I remember dating a woman when on our first date, she was like talking about clubbing and going to clubs and this and that. We were in LA and we were at this really fancy restaurant, this like French restaurant. And she was like, I hate waiting in line. Just promise me if we ever go to the club together, like we're not going to wait in line. Like we're just going to be able to zip right in. I remember thinking like, I don't have that pull. I don't know who you're hanging out with, but I didn't know how to get in the clubs and pass the line. And that just wasn't my scene, right? Like I maybe go to a club here and there, but I wasn't like Mr. VIP. And so I knew that. I was like, oh, I can't meet the mark with this woman. And so immediately my attraction for her plummeted because my own sense of self and being able to provide her with the experience she wanted wasn't able to be met. Where does this lead us? This leads us to the acceptance of him just naturally, creates a beautiful leaning into the relationship. The fourth thing that men are looking for, this is the thing that draws them into a relationship, is someone who can create the fun over the drama. And I want to highlight something here, something that you may or may not know men perceive as drama, and that is gossip. So what is gossip? Gossip is talking about somebody else when they're not there in a negative light. That's simply gossip. You might think, well, that's not gossip. That's just what we talk about. Like I'm going to talk about something. So if you're talking about your ex, or you're talking about a friend, or you're talking about a family member, and it's not in a positive light, like it's about negativity, it's about something they did, or how they wronged you, or just something weird, or whatever it is, we interpret that as drama. And drama energy is repelling energy. Men are not drawn to drama. And I would argue that the man who is drawn to drama is not the man that you ultimately want. How do I know? Because you're watching this channel, you're watching this video, you're the kind of woman who you want to create a beautiful, healthy, conscious partnership with somebody else. So of course, the man who's drawn to drama is not going to be a great fit for you. So noticing, oh, is everything that I'm saying, am I willing to make a commitment, draw a line in the sand, that I don't talk about others when they're not there in a negative light? You can talk positively about other people, about how great they are, how much fun you have together, all kinds of things like that. But your ability to create fun versus the drama in that idea of fun. So we've talked about drama. Let's talk about fun for a moment. Your man is drawn to fun. When I got hired to come into Zeusk, they wanted consulting. They flew me up to San Francisco and I met with the executives at Zeusk. We did some videos, some live streams. They gave us research that said that of the millions of men who filled out online profiles, the commonality for the kind of profile that those guys would actually click on, that what men were looking for, were profiles that represented fun. And that makes total sense when you think about it, because we all want to have fun in life. Like, we want a relationship that's going to feel fun. So on that date, does it feel fun or does it feel heavy and stressful? Does it feel fun or does it feel dramatic? Does it feel fun and your ability to flip drama or obstacle into fun? Ability to create fun conversations? Ability to create fun moments, like saying, hey, let's go into this little gift shop and you play with different items and you have fun in that moment, your ability to create fun out of the ordinary, the extraordinary, energy out of the ordinary moments, that is beautiful. It reminds me of something my friend said recently where he goes, you want to be around people you want to be around. And I was like, that's either the simplest thing I've ever heard or like the Tao of dating, right? Like the most profound, you want to be around people that you want to be around. And really that sums it up, is that men are drawn to people who create the fun in whatever moments they're having. Now, the fifth quality that men are drawn to in a relationship is a woman who has the drive to grow. What this means is it's the woman who's not satisfied with the status quo of her life. She's willing to learn, she's willing to grow, she wants to strive, because that in her is going to cause him to want to grow, to strive, to become a better man, like that Jerry Maguire moment where he says, you make me want to be a better man. That's one of the great qualities about having an amazing partner in our life. No, not every man. And I imagine not every woman wants that, but the person who wants the quality of relationship that's constantly expanding, that's deep, that's passionate, that's connected, that comes from a mindset of wanting to grow. Now it can come in two forms. Either you can be the one that's challenging him to grow, or you can be the one that's open to learning and being willing to learn. Anybody, there are areas that he's learned that you're willing to learn and grow in those areas. And this is actually one of the best kinds of relationships where you can learn from him and he gets to learn from you. And the two of you together are growing on a path of becoming freer, fuller, more expanded versions of yourself. Those are 5 qualities that men are drawn to. The reason we wanted to talk about these is because you already have these qualities. And as you realize that your job is not to get him to like you, your job is not to be anything other than yourself on a date, but to be center stream to who you are. And your job is not to try to change him into something that he's not, but is simply to have as much fun on that date as possible and to see if you're aligned, and if he's not aligned, let him go. Because your major dominant belief is there's something even better still on its way. And when you can come from that beingness, you collapse time and manifest your man a whole lot faster. So if you would love support, if you would love to be on a journey with a community of amazing women who are all manifesting their man, and you're like, this is my year, this is my time, I want to manifest love now, then my encouragement is click the link below, because we have an amazing program called Manifest Your Man that takes step by step everything required to help put you in the right mindset, unleash the heart set, and give you the skill set to not only attract the love of your life, but make that relationship phenomenal. So click the link, explore that program. If it's a right fit for you, I would love to support you. And until I see you again, I appreciate you, and here's to your amazing love life. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. They say you can't demand respect, you must earn it. But what most people don't realize is that respect isn't just gained by what you do. It's also lost by what you allow, what you tolerate, and most dangerously, by the habits you've unknowingly picked up. Respect isn't given freely in this world. It's a currency earned through action, character, and discipline. And if you're not careful, certain habits will silently drain every drop of it. If you're wondering why people overlook your value, why you're not taken seriously, or why your presence doesn't hold the weight it should, it's not always because of what you're missing. Sometimes it's because of what you need to let go of. Today, we're not talking about how to gain respect. We're going to strip away the habits that are robbing you of it, one by one. Let's start with the first habit you must remove. The habit of trying to please everyone is a silent destroyer of self-respect, and by extension, the respect you receive from others. It's rooted in a deep need for validation, a desire to be accepted, to be liked, to avoid conflict, and to feel safe in the approval of others. On the surface, it seems harmless, even virtuous. After all, being kind, generous, and accommodating are good qualities, right? But when the desire to be liked becomes a pattern of self-betrayal, you begin trading away the very things that make people respect you: your standards, your boundaries, your voice.
People who fall into this habit often say yes when they mean no. They commit to things they don't want to do, laugh at jokes that don't amuse them, nod in agreement with things that go against their values, and shrink themselves so others can feel comfortable. Every time they do, they lose a little bit of their own authenticity. And authenticity is the bedrock of respect. When people see you constantly bending to meet their expectations, they begin to view you as someone who lacks a backbone, someone they can manipulate, someone they don't have to consider seriously, because if you don't respect your own limits, why should they? Trying to please everyone turns you into a chameleon, always changing colors depending on who you're with. You become so focused on fitting in that you forget who you are. You avoid conflict, fearing rejection or judgment, not realizing that avoiding necessary confrontation is a form of dishonesty, not just with others, but with yourself. People respect those who speak their truth, even when it's uncomfortable. They admire those who have the courage to stand firm, even when it's not popular. But you can't do that when your energy is spent trying to gain favor from every person you meet. What's more, trying to please everyone is a guaranteed path to exhaustion. You spread yourself thin, trying to keep up with everyone's expectations, constantly adjusting your behavior, filtering your thoughts, and second-guessing your choices. You begin to live reactively rather than intentionally. You don't lead your life, you respond to it. And in doing so, you become forgettable because people may like those who always say yes, but they don't respect them. They don't admire the agreeable, they admire the grounded. When you try to be everything to everyone, you end up being nothing to yourself. You dilute your power, your clarity, your presence. You walk into rooms worried about how others perceive you instead of walking in with purpose. You prioritize being liked over being respected. But here's the truth. The moment you choose to be respected, you'll realize not everyone needs to like you. And when you fully accept that, you free yourself from the shackles of approval seeking. The habit of people-pleasing also attracts the wrong kind of people into your life, the takers, the manipulators, the ones who sense your willingness to sacrifice yourself and exploit it. They don't see your kindness as strength, they see it as weakness. They don't value your generosity, they expect it. And because you've taught them that your boundaries are negotiable, they stop asking, they just take. And the more they take, the more invisible you feel. The more invisible you feel, the harder you try to please. And it becomes a vicious cycle of diminishing respect, first from others, then from yourself. Self-respect begins with the word no. No to what doesn't align with your values. No to what drains your energy. No to people who only show up when they need something. No to being everything for everyone. And that no doesn't have to be loud, rude, or angry. It just has to be firm, steady, unapologetic. Because when people see that you honor yourself, they're more likely to honor you too. When they see that your time, your energy, your voice has a boundary, they think twice before crossing it. The need to please everyone often comes from childhood conditioning. Perhaps you learned that being agreeable kept the peace, that love was conditional, that approval had to be earned through compliance. But as an adult, continuing that pattern only keeps you trapped in the same emotional cage. You're no longer a child trying to survive approval. You're an adult who can build your own respect. But to do that, you must start living for what's right, not what's popular. Being respected requires that you disappoint some people, that you say no and stand firm even when it makes others uncomfortable, that you walk away from situations that expect your silence in place of your truth. It means embracing the discomfort that comes with authenticity because you understand that your integrity matters more than their approval. And that's not arrogance. That's self-respect. There's a big difference between being kind and being a doormat. One is rooted in strength, the other in fear. One builds connection, the other breeds resentment. When you start honoring yourself, you become a stronger force. You start speaking not just to be heard, but to be felt. You enter spaces with clarity, not confusion. You set the tone instead of adapting to it. People respect those who value their time, who protect their peace, who stand for something. And ironically, when you stop trying to be liked by everyone, the right people start to gravitate toward you. The ones who respect your boundaries, the ones who appreciate your authenticity, the ones who don't need you to shrink for them to shine. But it all begins when you decide that your value doesn't depend on outside approval, that you're not here to please, you're here to live with purpose. Removing the habit of trying to please everyone doesn't mean becoming harsh or selfish. It means becoming real. It means choosing self-respect over comfort. It means choosing long-term value over short-term validation. And most importantly, it means choosing to be the kind of person you can respect, because once you respect yourself, the world begins to follow your lead. There's a silent trap that far too many people fall into, the habit of over-apologizing for who they are. It sounds harmless at first. After all, isn't it polite to apologize? Isn't it a sign of humility, a way to show empathy and maintain peace? But the problem begins when "I'm sorry" becomes more than just a polite phrase. It becomes a reflex, a default, a subconscious expression that reveals something deeper, a belief that your existence, your truth, your presence, or your opinions are somehow inconvenient or unworthy. Over-apologizing isn't just about the words, it's about the energy behind them. It's about how often people apologize for things they shouldn't even feel guilty for. They say sorry for speaking their mind, sorry for having boundaries, sorry for taking up space in a conversation. They say sorry when someone bumps into them. And every time they do, they teach others how to treat them not as equals, not as individuals with firm identity, but as people who are unsure of their own worth. This habit often takes root early in life. Maybe it came from environments where your feelings were dismissed, where asserting yourself led to punishment or rejection. Perhaps you were taught that being nice meant being silent, compliant, or invisible, so you learned to soften your words, lower your voice, step back instead of stepping forward. You learned that keeping the peace was more important than speaking the truth. But as you grow, those habits begin to rob you of something essential, your power. The more you apologize for who you are, the more people see you as someone who needs permission to exist. And let's be clear, no one respects someone who's constantly seeking permission. Respect is rooted in strength, clarity, and presence. When you over-apologize, what you're really doing is signaling weakness, even when that's not your intention. You're telling the world that you're not confident in what you're saying, that your thoughts and feelings are negotiable, that your presence is something to be excused rather than embraced. And people respond accordingly. They may not say it out loud, but they feel it. They take your words less seriously. They interrupt more often. They overlook your opinions. They sense the lack of self-certainty. And that translates into a lack of influence, because in every room, there are people who command attention and people who silently ask for acceptance. The latter rarely get the respect they deserve, no matter how talented or intelligent they are. Over-apologizing becomes a habit of self-erasure. It starts small with little concessions. You let someone cut in line. You say it's fine when it's not. You take the blame to keep the peace. You laugh at jokes that make you uncomfortable. You lower your standards so others won't feel challenged. And over time, you chip away at your own sense of self. You teach yourself to prioritize others' comfort over your own truth. You shrink so others can breathe. But that shrinking doesn't make people admire you, it makes you disappear. Now, it's important to distinguish between real accountability and chronic over-apologizing. Taking responsibility for a mistake is powerful. It shows character. But constantly saying sorry when no wrong has been done, that's not humility, that's insecurity. That's fear in disguise. And fear never commands respect. The danger is that over-apologizing also affects how you see yourself. Your subconscious listens to everything you say. When you repeatedly say sorry for things that aren't wrong, your mind begins to believe that you are wrong for having a voice, wrong for having needs, wrong for taking up space. You start to see yourself through a lens of guilt, always assuming you're the problem, always feeling the need to justify your existence. That mindset is the opposite of self-respect. And if you can't respect yourself, no one else will either. Every unnecessary apology is a withdrawal from your self-worth bank. It's a message to yourself and to others that your value is conditional, that you must earn your place by minimizing your presence. But respect isn't earned by shrinking. It's earned by standing, by being rooted in who you are, by speaking with clarity, and by refusing to apologize for the things that make you whole. Imagine someone who walks into a room and immediately begins apologizing for being there. for asking a question, for having a suggestion. Now imagine someone who walks in with quiet confidence, grounded in their identity, speaking with respect, but without apology. Who would you naturally respect more? Who would you listen to more intently? The difference is clear because confidence, not overcompensation, is what builds trust. And trust is the foundation of respect. So how do you begin to break this habit? You start by catching yourself. Notice every time you say sorry unnecessarily. Was it really needed? Was there an actual mistake? Or were you trying to soften your presence? Then replace the apology with a stronger phrase. Instead of sorry I'm late, say thank you for waiting. Instead of sorry for the question, say I have a question. Instead of sorry to bother you, say do you have a moment? These subtle shifts rewire your brain. They move you from guilt to gratitude, from insecurity to strength. Over time, as you practice this new language, something powerful begins to happen. Your posture changes, your tone changes. People start reacting to you differently. They listen more, interrupt less. You begin to notice that your presence carries more weight, not because you become louder, but because you become clearer. And clarity is magnetic. When you stop apologizing for who you are, you send a message that your identity doesn't need editing, that your voice doesn't need permission, that your existence is not an inconvenience. It's a statement. When you stand in that truth, people notice. They may not always agree with you, but they will respect you because respect isn't about being perfect. It's about being real, about showing up fully without shrinking. And that begins when you stop handing out apologies for simply being who you are. One of the most dangerous habits that slowly eats away at your potential, your peace, and the respect you deserve is the habit of making excuses. It's deceptive because it often comes cloaked in logic. It sounds reasonable. It feels protective. But behind every excuse is a refusal to take ownership. Behind every excuse is a missed opportunity for growth. And over time, the more you allow excuses to dictate your life, the more powerless you become. And nothing makes people lose respect for you faster than watching you constantly avoid responsibility. Excuses are comfort zones in disguise. They allow you to stay safe, to avoid discomfort, to shift blame onto external factors. Your past, your environment, your circumstances, your lack of support, your busy schedule. But the truth is, life will always give you reasons to quit, to stall, to retreat. There will always be obstacles. There will always be unfair situations. But the people who earn respect, the ones who rise, lead, and inspire, are the ones who refuse to let those obstacles define them. They own their path. They don't just take credit when things go right. They take responsibility when things go wrong. And that's rare. That's powerful. That's what separates those who are respected from those who are merely tolerated. People who make excuses often don't even realize they're doing it. They think they're being honest about their limitations. They say things like, I'm just not good with people, or I've always been this way, or I don't have the time. They use these phrases to justify staying the same, but what they're really doing is refusing to change. And over time, this becomes a lifestyle. A person who constantly makes excuses becomes unreliable, not because they're not capable, but because they're always explaining why they didn't deliver, why they didn't follow through, why they didn't show up fully. Eventually, people stop trusting them, not just with tasks, but with anything meaningful, because respect is rooted in reliability. And you can't be reliable if you're always leaning on reasons why you couldn't do what needed to be done. The worst part about excuses is how they slowly erode your own belief in yourself. At first, they protect your ego. They make you feel safe. They help you avoid the sting of failure or judgment. But over time, they become your identity. You start believing your own stories. You begin to see yourself as a victim of your circumstances rather than a creator of your life. And when that belief sets in, you lose the very thing that earns respect in this world. Your agency, your power to choose, your ability to rise, your willingness to own your decisions and shape your future. Excuses keep you stuck in patterns you claim to hate. They make you reactive instead of proactive. You wait for things to change instead of being the change. You keep saying someday instead of saying today. And here's the brutal truth. No one respects a person who always has a reason why they can't. People respect action. They respect accountability. They respect those who admit their flaws, acknowledge their setbacks, and still choose to move forward. Because that takes strength, that takes courage, that takes integrity. When you live in excuses, you push responsibility away. And when you push responsibility away, you push away growth. You rob yourself of the lessons that come with failure, the power that comes with progress, the self-trust that's built when you follow through. You begin to live defensively, always explaining, justifying, rationalizing. But people don't listen to excuses. They watch actions. They pay attention to consistency. They respond to effort. Excuses might give you sympathy, but they won't give you respect. And if your goal is to be seen, heard, and valued, you need to understand that sympathy is not a substitute for respect. Making excuses is often a result of fear. Fear of failing, fear of judgment, fear of disappointing others or yourself. But the cure for fear isn't avoidance, it's action. Every time you push through discomfort, instead of explaining it away, you build confidence. Every time you do what you said you would do, even when it's hard, you build credibility. And every time you stop yourself from saying, I can't, and start asking, how can I? You open the door to growth, to momentum, and to influence. People are drawn to those who are solution-minded, the ones who figure it out, who own their outcomes, who don't waste time pointing fingers. They admire those who admit when they've fallen short without blaming others. That kind of self-honesty is magnetic. It shows maturity. It shows strength. It shows that you're not here to play small or stay stuck. You're here to evolve. And that evolution begins when you stop using reasons as shields and start using responsibility as your compass. Respect isn't given to the one who always has the best conditions. It's given to the one who makes the most of whatever they're given. It's given to the person who shows up regardless of the odds, who chooses discipline over distraction, who chooses progress over perfection. And none of that is possible while you're still living in excuse mode. Because excuses are like chains. They're invisible, but they're heavy. They bind you to the version of yourself you say you've outgrown. They anchor you to a comfort zone you've long outlived. And the only way to break free is to stop defending them. Every time you feel the urge to make an excuse, pause and ask yourself, what am I really avoiding? What am I afraid of? What would happen if I took full ownership instead? That single shift in mindset can change everything. Because when you stop making excuses, you start making moves. And when you start making moves, people notice. They start to trust you. They start to listen. They start to take you seriously. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. Because you've chosen responsibility over reasons. And that's the kind of character the world can't help but respect. There's a habit that quietly chips away at your potential, your peace, and your ability to earn genuine respect. It's the habit of constantly seeking validation from others. At first glance, it may not seem all that damaging. After all, who doesn't want to be liked? Who doesn't want to feel accepted, appreciated, and understood? But when your worth becomes dependent on the opinions, praise, or approval of others, you hand over the keys to your self-respect. You make yourself a hostage to outside affirmation. And nothing makes people lose respect for someone faster than watching them betray themselves just to please the crowd. The need for validation is deeply rooted. It often comes from childhood environments where love was conditional, where approval had to be earned through performance, good behavior, or people-pleasing. You might have learned that you're only valuable when you meet others' expectations. When you don't rock the boat, when you say what people want to hear, and that programming stays with you. It shows up in subtle ways. You hesitate to speak your mind, afraid of being judged. You change your opinion to match the group. You measure your worth based on likes, compliments, and attention. You become more focused on being accepted than being authentic. But the truth is, you can't earn real respect while pretending to be someone you're not. When your decisions are dictated by what others think, you lose your center. You lose your sense of who you are. You begin to live a life of performance, tailoring every word, action, and choice to fit into a mold that makes others comfortable. But people don't respect performers. They admire truth tellers. They're drawn to those who are grounded in themselves, who speak with conviction, who don't change their essence just to win favor. Because that kind of authenticity is rare. And anything that's rare is respected. Living for validation is like chasing a mirage. No matter how much approval you get, it's never enough. There's always someone who disagrees, someone who doesn't like you, someone who criticizes you. And if your peace depends on everyone clapping for you, you'll never find peace. You'll live on an emotional roller coaster, high when praised, low when ignored or criticized. That instability erodes your credibility. It makes you appear insecure, unsure, and easily swayed. And those qualities never earn respect. People respect those who are rooted, not rattled. You start compromising in small ways. You say yes when you want to say no. You tolerate things that go against your values. You hold back your opinions, water down your truth, and lose your edge just to avoid disapproval. And each time you do, you betray yourself a little more. The world may applaud, but deep down, you know you've traded your authenticity for applause. That kind of validation is empty. It's like eating sugar when your body needs substance. It may feel good in the moment, but it weakens you over time. There's something magnetic about someone who doesn't need to be liked to do what's right. Someone who can stand alone, firm in their beliefs without seeking permission or applause. That strength commands respect. Because when people see that you're not easily swayed by opinions, they start trusting you more. They know you won't flip-flop under pressure. They know you'll speak the truth even when it's unpopular. That kind of integrity is powerful. It makes people listen. It makes people take you seriously. Validation seeking also creates a dangerous dependency. You become addicted to feedback. You constantly look outward to decide how you should feel about yourself. And that dependency makes you easy to manipulate. People can control you with their approval or rejection. You become a puppet, dancing for likes, affirmation, and attention. But the moment you stop chasing validation is the moment you reclaim your freedom. You stop waiting to be seen and start seeing yourself. You stop asking, do they approve of me? And start asking, do I approve of myself? That shift is where real respect begins, both from yourself and from others. When you no longer need validation, you become unstoppable. You take risks without fearing judgment. You speak boldly without needing applause. You trust your instincts, knowing that your worth is not up for debate. You stop explaining your every move and start owning your path. That level of self-assurance doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you solid. And solid people are respected because they're rare in a world full of people trying to be liked. You begin to attract a different kind of energy. People come to you not because you fit their mold, but because you inspire them to break theirs. Your presence becomes a permission slip for others to be real. You stop performing and start leading. Not everyone will like you, but the right people will respect you. Because in a world where everyone's chasing likes, the one who stands firm in their truth stands out. You don't earn respect by trying to be everything for everyone. You earn it by being completely yourself. That means standing your ground when it's uncomfortable, speaking your truth when it's risky, and choosing authenticity even when it costs you popularity. It means trusting that the right people will see your value, not because you shouted the loudest or followed the trend, but because you dared to be real. There's a quiet power in someone who doesn't flinch under scrutiny, who doesn't adjust themselves just to gain favor. It's not about being rebellious. It's about being rooted. When you validate yourself, you give yourself permission to walk into any room and know that you belong, even if no one applauds. You operate from a place of wholeness, not from need. And that wholeness is what earns respect, because it shows the world that your value isn't up for negotiation. It shows that you know who you are. And that's more impressive than any applause you could ever chase. One of the most damaging habits you must remove to earn respect is the tendency to speak negatively, whether it's about others, yourself, or the world around you. At first, it might not even seem like a habit. It can slip out as casual sarcasm, passive-aggressive jokes, or venting in the name of honesty. But over time, a pattern of negativity becomes poison to your mindset, your relationships, and your influence. It creates a cloud that follows you into every room, and no one is inspired or uplifted by someone who constantly complains, criticizes, or focuses on what's wrong. Respect isn't born in negativity, it's crushed by it. The words you use reveal your mindset. When your speech is laced with judgment, pessimism, or constant fault-finding, you're showing the world how you think, and people are always listening even when you think they're not. They hear how you talk about others when they're not around. They pay attention to how you speak about challenges, how you interpret setbacks, and how you describe your own life. If every conversation with you feels like a download of everything that's going wrong, it doesn't take long before people start tuning out, because nobody is drawn to a drain. People are drawn to energy that uplifts, encourages, challenges, and strengthens, not energy that weighs them down. Negative talk also reflects a lack of discipline. It's easy to complain. It's easy to blame. It's easy to criticize from the sidelines. But it takes real character to look for solutions. It takes maturity to stay silent when you have nothing constructive to say. It takes strength to uplift instead of tear down. The world is already filled with negativity. People are surrounded by bad news, discouragement, and reasons to feel hopeless. If you want to earn respect, be the one who brings clarity, encouragement, and perspective. Be the one who chooses your words with intention, who understands the weight they carry. Because every word you speak is either building your reputation or breaking it. Negativity also exposes insecurity. People who constantly talk down about others often do so to feel better about themselves. They pick apart someone's success, personality, or decisions, not because they're honest critics, but because they feel threatened. Gossip and criticism become tools to elevate themselves in their own eyes, but those tactics backfire. When you speak badly about others, people don't think less of them. They think less of you. They start to wonder how you speak about them when they're not around. They question your loyalty, your integrity, and your maturity. Respect can't grow in a place where trust is missing. And every time you use your words to tear someone down, you chip away at the trust others place in you. There's also the damage that negative self-talk creates when you constantly speak lowly about yourself, dismissing compliments, downplaying your strengths, calling yourself stupid, or repeating phrases like, "I always mess up." You train others to see you the same way. You teach them not to take you seriously. You communicate a lack of confidence, and people don't respect someone who's always shrinking, always second guessing, always doubting themselves. Respect follows those who walk with quiet confidence, who know their worth without needing to announce it. And that starts with how you speak about yourself when no one's watching. What you say consistently shapes your identity. Your words create your inner environment, and that inner environment leaks into everything you do. If you keep saying life is unfair, people are selfish, success is out of reach, and nothing ever works out, you start to live like it's true. You start making decisions from a place of defeat. And that energy becomes your brand. People don't respect defeatist energy. They respect resilience. They respect optimism that's rooted in reality. They respect someone who can look at the world's problems and still speak about possibilities. It's not about being fake positive or pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing your focus. Anyone can highlight problems, but it takes wisdom to see the bigger picture. It takes emotional intelligence to respond with grace. It takes courage to speak vision when things feel uncertain. And when people see that you have the ability to remain grounded, hopeful, and measured in your words, even in difficult times, they respect you not just for what you say, but for the strength behind your words. Your language also sets the tone for every room you walk into. Leaders are not just those with titles. They're those who shift atmospheres. If your presence makes people feel lighter, stronger, more hopeful, you'll be remembered. You'll be trusted. You'll be respected. But if your presence brings gossip, complaints, or a constant focus on what's wrong, people will begin to avoid you. You may not even realize it, but doors will quietly close. Opportunities will pass by. People will seek others who bring solutions, encouragement, and stability instead. Changing your speech doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means mastering it. It means taking ownership of the energy you bring. It means choosing to speak from a place of intention, not emotion. When you do that, you rise above the crowd. You become someone whose words carry weight, not because you talk the most, but because you talk with purpose. You become known not just for your skills, but for your character. And that kind of reputation is rare and powerful. Every conversation you have is a chance to elevate or diminish the respect others have for you. Your words matter. They reveal your values, your mindset, your character. They're a preview of what it's like to work with you, trust you, follow you. If you want to be respected, you must first respect the power of your voice. And that means eliminating the habit of speaking negatively, even when it feels justified, even when everyone else is doing it, because the person who learns to rise above the noise will always stand out. The person who uses their words to build rather than break will always be remembered. And the person who speaks with purpose will always be respected. At the core of earning respect from others is something even deeper, respecting yourself. These 5 habits may seem small, but they are massive in their impact. They erode your power from the inside out, and as long as they stay alive, you'll continue to feel unseen, unheard, and unappreciated. But once you remove them, everything changes. When you stop seeking validation, you start creating it from within. When you stop apologizing for who you are, you begin owning your space. When you stop avoiding truth, your words begin to carry authority. When you stop gossiping, your character speaks louder than your voice. And when you stop pleasing everyone, you start leading your own life. Respect isn't about controlling others. It's about mastering yourself. It's about walking into the world with such clarity, such conviction, and such integrity that people can't help but take notice. So let this be your moment of transformation. Look at your habits. Ask yourself, what am I doing that's silently weakening my power? And then commit. Commit to removing what doesn't serve your strength. Commit to rising above the noise. Commit to becoming the kind of person who doesn't just demand respect, but inspires it, earns it, and keeps it. Because once you become that person, the world will begin to treat you the way you've always deserved to be treated, not because they suddenly changed, but because you did. The journey to respect doesn't start with them, it starts with you, and it starts today.
Respect is not demanded, it is commanded by who you are, not what you beg for. If people don't respect you, it is not their fault, it is because of what you allow. Today, let's talk about 5 toxic habits you must remove if you truly want respect in life. And let me tell you, the moment you drop these, the world will look at you differently. Respect is not about looking strong, it is about being strong. Drop these habits and watch the world shift when you explain yourself. You give people permission to question your worth. The more you justify, the weaker your stance becomes. Think about it. When was the last time you saw a truly confident person explaining their choices like they were in a courtroom? Do you think the lion in the jungle roars to convince the deer that he is king? No, he just is. The moment you start explaining your every action, you invite doubt into the conversation. Imagine this. You decide to take a break from social media for your mental health. Someone asks, why aren't you online anymore? Instead of saying, because I wanted to focus on myself, you start giving a full breakdown. Oh, I've been really overwhelmed with work, and I read this article that says too much social media is bad for the brain. I feel like I waste so much time scrolling, so I just thought maybe I should take a break. Stop, look at the difference when you simply say, I just felt like it. That's it. No room for questioning, no room for debate. When you explain too much, people sense hesitation, and hesitation breeds doubt. Picture another scenario. You decide not to attend a family gathering because you need rest. The moment you say no, someone asks why, and you feel the pressure. So you start giving an essay about how work has been exhausting, how you haven't slept well, how you have too much on your plate. And suddenly they start questioning you. Oh, come on, it's just one evening. You always do this. You never make time for family. But if you had just said, I won't be able to make it, and left it at that, they would have had nothing to push against. The more reasons you give, the more ammunition they have to challenge you. Look at the most powerful people in the world, leaders, visionaries, even celebrities. Do you ever see them over-explaining? No, because they understand the power of a firm statement. The moment you start justifying, you lose authority. Think of it like this. Imagine a luxury brand. Does Rolls-Royce ever explain why their cars are expensive? Do they write long essays convincing people to buy them? No, they simply exist, and people respect the brand because it doesn't beg for approval. Now apply this to your life. Say you start a new habit, maybe waking up at 5 a.m. to work on your goals. Your friends ask, why are you doing this? Instead of saying, Well, I read somewhere that successful people wake up early, and I wanted to try it because I feel like I waste time in the morning. And no, just say I like it. The less you explain, the more powerful you appear. A person who is sure of themselves does not need to prove it to anyone. You don't see a diamond apologizing for shining too bright. You don't see a mountain explaining why it stands tall. Think about a time in school or work when you made a simple decision. Maybe you didn't want to participate in a group event. The moment you said no, people bombarded you with questions. If you started over explaining, they pressured you even more. But if you had just said, I'm not interested, and left it at that, they would have had nothing to latch onto. This is what separates those who are respected from those who are walked over. And the worst part, when you over-explain, people stop taking you seriously. Imagine a boss who keeps explaining every rule he makes, trying to justify why it's necessary. His employees start questioning if he has to explain so much. Maybe even he isn't sure about it. But a strong leader simply says, this is the new rule. That's it. And people follow. Now look at your own life. Where are you over-explaining with your family, your friends at work? Every time you feel the urge to justify, take a step back. Ask yourself, would a powerful person explain this much? If the answer is no, then stop talking. Think about a relationship where one person always feels the need to explain themselves. Maybe a girlfriend constantly justifying why she wants some alone time, or a boyfriend over-explaining why he didn't text back immediately. It weakens them, because the moment you start explaining, you put yourself in a lower position. And here's a truth that will change your life. People respect those who are certain of themselves. If you respect your own decisions, others will too. But if you keep explaining and you tell them, I need your approval to feel okay with my choices, and that it's a sure way to lose respect. If someone questions your boundaries, don't justify them, reinforce them. If someone asks why you live a certain way, don't give them a book, give them a sentence. If someone challenges your choices, don't fall into the trap of convincing them stand firm, because the truth is, when you stop over-explaining, you start commanding respect, not by force, not by argument, but by the quiet, unshakable power of a person who knows exactly who they are. The disease of seeking approval will keep you a prisoner for life. You bend, you shrink, you say yes when you mean no, all because you fear disappointing someone. But let me ask you, what about disappointing yourself? Who will live your life, you or them? The moment you stop pleasing people, you stop being controlled by them. Imagine this. You're at work and your boss suddenly asks you to stay late, even though you have personal commitments. Your mind races. If I say no, he'll think I'm lazy. If I refuse, will I lose my next promotion? So you push your own plans aside, smile and say, of course I'll stay inside. You're exhausted, but you'd rather suffer than risk upsetting someone. This is the trap of people pleasing. The world keeps taking from you because you keep saying yes. Think of a friend who always calls you to dump their problems on you. You could be tired, you could be dealing with your own struggles, but you answer every time. Why? Because you don't want them to think you're selfish. But here's the truth. The people who truly respect you will never demand that you sacrifice yourself for their comfort. And the people who expect you to will never truly respect you. The need to be liked is a silent prison. You walk into a room and you immediately adjust your energy based on who is there. You laugh at jokes that aren't funny. You nod in agreement when you secretly disagree. You smile when you feel like screaming. You apologize for things that aren't your fault. And why? Because you want people to accept you. But let me ask you, what's the point of being accepted by others if you reject yourself in the process? Have you ever seen a lion apologize for roaring too loudly? Have you ever seen an eagle yell for its flight? So the pigeons don't feel bad. The ones who are truly powerful do not shrink themselves to make others comfortable. They exist in their full strength, and the world either respects them or moves out of their way. You must stop pleasing people, not because you don't care, but because if you keep prioritizing everyone else, you will eventually have nothing left for yourself. Think of your energy like a glass of water. Every time you say yes to something you don't want to do, you pour a little Every time you put others before yourself, you pour more out. One day the glass will be empty. And when it is, tell me who will refill it for you. You're not a servant to the opinions of others. You do not owe your time, your energy, your peace to anyone who demands it. Think of the strongest people in history. Did they rise by being agreeable? Did they become legends by making everyone comfortable? No, they stood their ground. They risked being disliked. They chose their own path, even if it meant walking alone. Now look at your own life. How many times have you smiled when you wanted to cry? How many times have you bitten your tongue to keep the peace? How many times have you done things you hated just to avoid conflict, and where has that gotten you? Picture this: a man spends his whole life saying yes to everyone. He's the first to help, the last to rest. He's always available, always reliable, always agreeable. And then one day, he needs help. He looks around and what does he see? No one, because the people he spent years pleasing only valued what he could do for them, not who he was. If you want respect, you must stop being afraid of disappointment. Disappoint people. Let them be upset. Let them call you selfish. Let them walk away, because the ones who stay, the ones who understand, those are the ones who truly matter. Think of a woman who always puts her family first. She never rests, never complains, never says no. And what happens? People get used to it. They expect it. They stop appreciating it. One day she stands up for herself. She says, no, I won't do this today. And suddenly everyone is shocked. They call her difficult. They say she's changed. But the truth is, she hasn't changed. She just stopped allowing herself to be taken for granted. If you live for others, you will die empty. If you chase approval, you will never be free. People pleasing is a cycle. You give, they take, and when you finally have nothing left, they move on to someone else. You think you're earning love, but all you're doing is making yourself disposable. Now imagine this. You walk into a room and you no longer care who likes you. You speak your truth without fear. You say no without guilt. You stand firm in your decisions. And suddenly something incredible happens. The ones who only wanted you for what you could give them, they fade away. But the ones who truly respect you, they draw closer. Because the truth is, when you stop seeking approval, you start commanding respect. When you stop trying to fit in, you become unforgettable. And when you stop pleasing everyone, you finally start living for yourself. Why do? You need someone to tell you that you're good enough. Why do you need applause, approval, or permission to be yourself? The moment you seek validation from others, you give them power over you. You hand over the keys to your happiness, your confidence, your worth, and you say, please tell me that I am enough. But what happens when they don't? Do you crumble? Do you shrink? Do you stop believing in yourself? Just because someone else doesn't think of a child who runs to their parents every time they draw something new, they hold up their little masterpiece, waiting for a reaction. If the parent smiles and praises them, they beam with pride. But if the parent is too busy, distracted, or simply doesn't respond, respect is not demanded, it is commanded by who you are, not what you beg for. If people don't respect you, it is not their fault, it is because of what you allow. Today, let's talk about 5 toxic habits you must remove if you truly want respect in life. And let me tell you, the moment you drop these, the world will look at you differently. Respect is not about looking strong, it is about being strong. Drop these habits and watch the world shift. When you explain yourself, you give people permission to question your worth. The more you justify, the weaker your stance becomes. Think about it. When's the last time you saw a truly confident person explaining their choices like they were in a courtroom? Do you think the lion in the jungle roars to convince the deer that he is king? No, he just is. The moment you start explaining your every action, you invite doubt into the conversation. Imagine this. You decide to take a break from social media for your mental health. Someone asks, why aren't you online anymore? Instead of saying, because I wanted to focus on myself, you start giving a full breakdown. Oh, I've been really overwhelmed with work, and I read this article that says too much social media is bad for the brain. And I feel like I waste so much time scrolling, so I just thought maybe I should take a break, stop, look at the difference. When you simply say, I just felt like it, that's it. No room for questioning, no room for debate. When you explain too much, people sense hesitation, and hesitation breeds doubt. Picture another scenario. You decide not to attend a family gathering because you need rest. The moment you say no, someone asks why, and you feel the pressure. So you start giving an essay about how work has been exhausting, how you haven't slept well, how you have too much on your plate. And suddenly they start questioning you. Oh, come on, it's just one evening. You always do this. You never make time for family. But if you had just said, I won't be able to make it, and left it at that, they would have had nothing to push against. The more reasons you give, the more ammunition they have to challenge you. Look at the most powerful people in the world, leaders, visionaries, even celebrities. Do you ever see them over-explaining? No, because they understand the power of a firm statement. The moment you start justifying, you lose authority. Think of it like this. Imagine a luxury brand. Does Rolls-Royce ever explain why their cars are expensive? Do they write long essays, convincing and people to buy them? No, they simply exist, and people respect the brand because it doesn't beg for approval. Now apply this to your life. Say you start a new habit, maybe waking up at 5 a.m. to work on your goals. Your friends ask, why are you doing this? Instead of saying, well, I read somewhere that successful people wake up early and I wanted to try it because I feel like I waste time in the morning, and just say I like it. The less you explain, the more powerful you appear. A person who is sure of themselves does not need to prove it to anyone. You don't see a diamond apologizing for shining too bright. You don't see a mountain explaining why it stands tall. Think about a time in school or work when you made a simple decision. Maybe you didn't want to participate in a group event. The moment you said no, people bombarded you with questions. If you started explaining, they pressured you even more. But if you had just said, I'm not interested, and left it at that, they would have nothing to latch onto. This is what separates those who are respected from those who are walked over. And the worst part, when you over-explain, people stop taking you seriously. Imagine a boss who keeps explaining every rule he makes, trying to justify why it's necessary. His employees start questioning. If he has to explain so much, maybe even he isn't sure about it. But a strong leader simply says, this is the new rule. That's it. And people follow. Now look at your own life. Where are you over-explaining with your family, your friends, at work? Every time you feel the urge to justify, take a step back. Ask yourself, would a powerful person explain this much? If the answer is no, then stop. Think about a relationship where one person always feels the need to explain themselves. Maybe a girlfriend constantly justifying why she wants some alone time, or a boyfriend over-explaining why he didn't text back immediately. It weakens them because the moment you start explaining, you put yourself in a lower position. And here's a truth that will change your life. People respect those who are certain of themselves. If you respect your own decisions, others will too. But if you keep explaining, you tell them, I need your approval to feel okay with my choices, and that it's a sure way to lose respect if someone questions your boundaries. Don't justify them, reinforce them. If someone asks why you live a certain way, don't give them a book, give them a sentence. If someone challenges your choices, don't fall into the trap of convincing. Stand firm. Because the truth is, when you stop over-explaining, you start commanding respect, not by force, not by argument, but by the quiet, unshakable power of a person who knows exactly who they are. The disease of seeking approval will keep you a prisoner for life. You bend, you shrink, you say yes when you mean no, all because you fear disappointing someone. But let me ask you, what about disappointing yourself? Who will live your life, you or them? The moment you stop pleasing people, you stop being controlled by them. Imagine this, you're at work and your boss suddenly asks you to stay late, even though you have personal commitments. Your mind races. If I say no, he'll think I'm lazy. If I refuse, will I lose my next promotion? So you push your own plans aside, smile and say, of course I'll stay inside. You're exhausted, but you'd rather suffer than risk upsetting someone. This is the trap of people-pleasing the world keeps taking from you because you keep saying yes. Think of a friend who always calls you to dump their problems on you. You could be tired. You could be dealing with your own struggles, but you answer every time. Why? Because you don't want them to think you're selfish. But here's the truth. The people who truly respect you will never demand that you sacrifice yourself for their comfort. And The people who expect you to will never truly respect you. The need to be liked is a silent prison. You walk into a room and you immediately adjust your energy based on who is there. You laugh at jokes that aren't funny. You nod in agreement when you secretly disagree. You smile when you feel like screaming. You apologize for things that aren't your fault. And why? Because you want people to accept you. But let me ask you, what's the point of being accepted by others if you reject yourself in the process? Have you ever seen a lion apologize for roaring too loudly? Have you ever seen an eagle yell for its flight? So the pigeons don't feel bad. The ones who are truly powerful do not shrink themselves to make others comfortable. They exist in their full strength, and the world either respects them or moves out of their way. You must stop pleasing people, not because you don't care, but because if you keep prioritizing everyone else, you will eventually have nothing left for yourself. Think of your energy like a glass of water. Every time you say yes to something you don't want to do, you pour a little. Every time you put others before yourself, you pour more out. One day, the glass will be empty. When it is, tell me who will refill it for you. You are not a servant to the opinions of others. You do not owe your time, your energy, your peace to anyone who demands it. Think of the strongest people in history. Did they rise by being agreeable? Did they become legends by making everyone comfortable? No, they stood their ground. They risked being disliked. They chose their own path, even if it meant walking alone. Now look at your own life. How many times have you smiled when you wanted to cry? How many times have you bitten your tongue to keep the peace? How many times have you done things you hated just to avoid conflict? And where has that gotten you? Picture this, a man spends his whole life saying yes to everyone. He's the first to help, the last to rest. He's always available, always reliable, always agreeable. And then one day, he needs help. He looks around and what does he see? No one. Because the people he spent years pleasing only valued what he could do for them, not who he was. If you want respect, you must stop being afraid of disappointment. Disappoint people. Let them be upset. Let them call you selfish. Let them walk away. Because the ones who stay, the ones who understand, those are the ones who truly matter. Think of a woman who always puts her family first. She never rests, never complains, never says no. And what happens? People get used to it. They expect it. They stop appreciating it. One day she stands up for herself. She says, no, I won't do this today. And suddenly everyone is shocked. They call her difficult. They say she's changed. But the truth is, she hasn't changed. She just stopped allowing herself to be taken for granted. If you live for others, you will die empty. If you chase approval, you will never be free. People-pleasing is a cycle. You give, they take. And when you finally have nothing left, they move on to someone else. You think you're earning love, but all you're doing is making yourself disposable. Now imagine this, you walk into a room and you no longer care who likes you. You speak your truth without fear. You say no without guilt. You stand firm in your decisions and suddenly something incredible happens. The ones who only wanted you for what you could give them, they fade away. But the ones who truly respect you, they draw closer because the truth is when you stop seeking. Hey, it's great to have you here, whether you're watching this in your car, on your lunch break, or late at night after a long day. Welcome. I know there's a lot of noise out there when it comes to dating advice, especially when it comes to what men actually want. You've probably heard 1,000 different opinions. Where this say that play hard to get, don't be too available, but also don't be too distant. It's exhausting, right? Let me cut through the noise. If you've ever wondered what actually turns a man on, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, energetically, then you're in the right place. Because today we're not talking about surface level tricks or playing games. We're talking about real, lasting attraction, the kind of turn-ons that make a man not just notice you, but lock in on you. The kind that makes him want to go all in, not just for the night, but for something real. And here's the kicker. Most women don't even realize they're already carrying some of these turn-ons. They just haven't learned how to lean into them fully. Because we live in a world that teaches women to dim their light, play it safe, or second guesses their power. But the moment you stop hiding and start owning who you are, your confidence, your desires, your standards, you become magnetic. So today I'm breaking down the 5 biggest turn-ons for men, the ones that go way beyond looks or lingerie. These are the traits, the behaviors, the energy that trigger real desire, and the best part, you don't need to fake any of them. You already have what it takes. Let's dive in. There is nothing more attractive to a man than a woman who knows what she wants. Because let's be honest, most people are out there drifting, hoping, waiting for life love, and other people to tell them what's next. But when a woman walks into a room and she's clear, not just about what she likes, but about who she is, the energy shifts. She doesn't come in loud or arrogant. She comes in with presence. She knows what she wants in her life, her relationships, and herself. And that certainty is incredibly rare and unbelievably sexy. You see, when a woman knows what she wants, she's not in the business of begging for crumbs. She's not looking for validation or chasing potential. She's evaluating. She's choosing. And men feel that she doesn't need to posture or play hard to get. Because the truth is, she is hard to get. Not because she's trying to be, but because she doesn't say yes to just anyone she knows. Her time is valuable. Her energy is valuable. Her heart is valuable. And if you want access to those things, you have to come correct. And here's the part most people miss. This kind of woman isn't just clear in love. She's clear in life. She knows the kind of lifestyle she's building. She knows the kind of future she wants. She's not sitting around hoping someone will give her purpose. He has purpose. And the right man, he doesn't feel threatened by that. He feels inspired by it. Because when a woman is rooted in herself, when she has standards, goals, values, she challenges a man to rise, not because she demands it, but because her very presence invites excellence. This woman doesn't play games. If she's interested, she'll let you know. And if she's not, she won't lead you on. That level of emotional maturity is a turn on in itself. She doesn't leave you guessing because she doesn't thrive on drama. She thrives on depth. And when a man feels that grounded feminine clarity, something inside him relaxes. He doesn't have to figure her out. He can just be with her. And that ironically creates more attraction than any game ever could. It's not about being rigid or inflexible. A woman who knows what she wants can still be playful, curious, open to new experiences, but she's not led by outside forces. She's led by her own internal compass. And that's magnetic because it signals to a man that he's not dealing with someone who's waiting to be saved. He's dealing with someone who's already whole. And that is the kind of woman he can trust, admire, and desire all at once. So if you've been afraid that having strong opinions or high standards will scare a man off, let me tell you, the only kind of man that scares off is the one who is never ready in the first place. Man who's ready, he's turned on by your clarity. Because a woman who knows what she wants doesn't just get attention, she gets devotion. There's a different kind of woman. The one who doesn't need to say much to be unforgettable. She doesn't try too hard. She doesn't overplay her hand. But when she looks at you, really looks at you, you feel it in your chest. It's not just about how she speaks. It's about the way she connects with her eyes, the kind of woman who can flirt without a single word. She carries this quiet confidence that says, I see you, I know who I am, and if I choose you, it will mean something. That's the kind of energy that makes a man stop mid-sentence because he's not used to it. Used to performance laughter that tries too hard, compliments that feel scripted, conversations that stay safe. But when a woman is fully present in her body, fully in the moment, and she meets your eyes with that playful, knowing gaze, it disarms you, it draws you in, and it creates a level of intimacy that most people skip right past. This kind of flirtation is subtle. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's not about being overtly sexual. It's in the slow glance, the slightly raised eyebrow, the quick smile that disappears just a little too fast. It's in the way she holds eye contact just a second longer than expected. And it says so much more than words ever could, because what she's really communicating, I'm not here to perform, near to connect. And I'm not afraid of being seen. That kind of woman, she's dangerous in the most beautiful way. She doesn't use flirtation as a tactic. It's just an extension of her presence, her awareness, her ability to be in her feminine energy, fully receptive, fully awake. And a man who's attuned, he feels it in his gut. He knows she's not trying to seduce him. She already has by simply being, and here's where it gets deeper, when you flirt with your eyes, if you create tension, not the kind that needs to be resolved right away, but the kind that builds that kind of tension is a lost art. Because most people rush to fill silence. They rush to say something clever or sexy, but she knows how to hold the space to linger in it. And it drives him wild because men aren't just craving validation. They're craving mystery. They're craving that feeling of what is she thinking, that moment of uncertainty wrapped in connection. It's intoxicating. So if you've ever wondered whether you need to be the loudest woman in the room to be the most attractive, the answer is no. You just need to be present. Let your eyes speak. Let them tell a story. Let them hold a man long enough to make him forget the world around him. Is because when a woman flirts like that with her gaze, with her calm confidence, with her energy, she doesn't have to chase. He leans in every single time. There's something deeply magnetic about a woman who's comfortable in her own body. It's not about perfection. It's not about having the most sculpted abs or flawless skin or runway. Proportions. It's about how she occupies her body. The way she walks into a room like she belongs there, the way she moves without overthinking, the way she lets herself feel good in her own skin, unapologetically. That kind of confidence is electric, and it turns a man on in a way that nothing superficial ever could. Because here's the truth. A man can tell when a woman is at war with herself, when she's constantly hiding, pulling at her clothes, apologizing for how she looks, shrinking herself to make others more comfortable. And while he might still find her physically attractive, that insecurity creates distance. But a woman who owns her space, who doesn't flinch under his gaze, but meets it, that woman doesn't just draw his attention, she holds it. And it's not about being loud or overtly sexual. It's about subtle signals, like the way she laughs freely, head tilted back, without worrying how she looks, the way she dances, without checking who's watching, the way she lets pleasure live in her, without guilt, whether she's savoring food, enjoying a stretch, or leaning into touch. That comfort signals something powerful to a man. She's not asking for permission to be herself. She's already given herself that permission. That kind of self-rust is intoxicating. This kind of woman doesn't pretend to be perfect. In fact, she may be the first to make fun of herself or point out the scar on her knee from childhood, but there's no shame in it. She wears her imperfections like a woman who's done trying to be someone else, and that is what makes her irresistible, because there is nothing sexier than a woman who isn't trying to prove anything. And let me say this, when a woman is comfortable in her body, she makes it safe for the man to be comfortable. Her self-acceptance gives him permission to let his guard down, to connect more fully, more honestly, because now it's not about performance, it's about presence. Presence is where real intimacy starts. So if you've been waiting to feel more desirable by reaching a certain weight or fitting a certain image, let this be the reminder. You didn't know you needed your desirability. Doesn't start with your body. It starts with how you treat your body, how you honor it, enjoy it, live in it. Because when you love it, when you truly accept it, everyone else is invited to do the same. A woman who is at home in her body doesn't chase attraction. She becomes it, not by changing herself, but by finally letting the world see what was already there. There's a particular kind of woman who stands out, not just because she feels deeply, but because she can think clearly. She's not only in touch with her emotions, but also with her opinions, her perspectives, her values. She doesn't just speak from her heart, she speaks from her mind. And that is one of the most powerful turn-ons for a man who's looking for more than surface connection, when a woman speaks her mind. She shows that she's not afraid to stand in her truth. She doesn't need everyone to agree with her. She's not bending herself to be liked. She's not choosing comfort over clarity. She's choosing authenticity. And that kind of honesty is rare, because most people spend their lives filtering themselves to fit into what they think someone else wants. But when a woman can express herself without
apology, it creates a jolt of respect and attraction in a man who's emotionally available enough to value it. Think about it. A man doesn't just want a woman who nods along, he
wants someone who brings new ideas to the table, someone who surprises him, challenges him, a woman who can disagree without becoming defensive, who can debate without becoming distant, who can say, actually, I see it differently. And then open up a conversation, not shut it down. That's incredibly attractive because it shows strength and softness. Coexisting. She's not here to dominate or submit. She's here to connect from a place of wholeness. There's also a maturity in this kind of communication. She doesn't lash out. She doesn't use silence as punishment. She doesn't make him guess. She uses her words clearly, respectfully, and directly. If something bothers her, she speaks on it. If something inspires her, she shares it. And because of that, a man doesn't feel like he's walking on eggshells around her. He feels like he's in a space where truth is welcome, and that freedom to be real. That's rare. That's sexy. That's where trust begins. And here's the nuance. A woman who speaks her mind doesn't need to be loud. It's not about volume. It's about clarity, even in her quiet moments. There's no confusion about where she stands. She doesn't need to over-explain or prove her worth through words. She simply knows herself, and when she chooses to share her thoughts, they land with weight, because they come from a place of inner alignment, not insecurity. When a man meets this kind of woman, he doesn't just desire her, he respects her, he sees her as an equal, a partner, a force. And that kind of attraction doesn't fade, because while beauty can turn heads, intellect, and presence turn hearts, and in the long run, it's the woman who can connect on all levels, mind, body, and soul, who becomes the most unforgettable. So you've ever felt pressure to just be easygoing or say the right thing? Here's your permission to stop your voice, your mind, your opinions. They're not too much. They're exactly what the right man is craving. There's something deeply alluring about a woman who knows how to receive. So not just gifts or compliments, but love, effort, care, and presence. Most people are so used to doing, proving, giving, managing. We live in a world that glorifies hustle, independence, and self-sufficiency. And while those are powerful traits, they can sometimes come at the cost of connection. Because when someone doesn't know how to receive, they block intimacy. They send the message even unconsciously that they don't need anyone. And that message, while empowering on the surface, can feel like a closed door to someone who wants to love you. A woman who knows how to receive is different. She doesn't see generosity as weakness. She doesn't feel guilty when someone goes out of their way for her. She doesn't shrink when someone admires her or offers her their best. She receives with grace, with appreciation, with a smile that says, thank you, I value this, and I value you. That energy is magnetic because when a man feels that his effort is welcome, not just tolerated, but valued, he wants to give more. It inspires him. It taps into something ancient and primal in him, not because she needs saving, but because she's created a space where giving feels meaningful. This kind of woman doesn't pretend she doesn't care. She doesn't brush off compliments with sarcasm. She doesn't deflect kindness or hide behind modesty. That's really insecurity in disguise. She receives fully. She lets someone pour into her without rushing to even the score. And that takes confidence because receiving is vulnerable. It says, I believe I'm worthy of this. And that belief, the deep, unshakable knowing of her worth, is what makes her unforgettable. She also knows how to receive emotionally. When a man opens up, shares something honest, or shows affection, she doesn't freeze or dismiss it. She leans in. She makes it safe. She lets the moment land. She's not in a rush to fix or respond. She simply allows the connection. And for a man who wants depth, that's everything because it tells him she's not just interested in what he does. She's present with who he is. And here's the twist. Receiving isn't passive, it's powerful because when a woman receives with warmth and gratitude, she gives something just as valuable. In return, acknowledgement. And acknowledgement is what makes a man feel seen, not just admired for what he brings to the table, but appreciated for who he becomes when he's with her. That's what turns on a man's devotion. Not just lust, not just attraction, but that deeper, long-lasting investment that says, I want to keep showing up for you. So if you've ever been afraid to let someone take care of you, to do something for you, to give you their love without feeling like you owe them back immediately, this is your reminder. Your ability to receive is a gift. Don't hide it. Don't water it down. Because the woman who receives with confidence, she invites a man to be his fullest, most giving, most connected self. And that kind of relationship, that's where the magic begins. So what turns a man on isn't just surface level beauty or fleeting excitement. It's presence, depth, and energy. It's the woman who walks in her truth, who flirts without trying, connects without chasing, and owns every inch of her being without apology. That kind of woman doesn't just capture a man's attention. She holds it and she keeps him coming back. Not because she needs to prove anything, but because she reminds him of what real connection feels like if you saw yourself in these traits, or even if you want to become that woman. Start by owning just one of them. Today, lean into your truth. Let yourself receive, hold eye contact just a moment longer, and notice how everything around you shifts, because when you step into this version of yourself, you don't just attract more love, you attract love that's worthy of you. Now it's your move. Be bold, be soft, be seen, and above all, never settle for less than the kind of connection that turns both of you all the way on. You've got this